Your effectiveness as a leader is fundamentally dependent on how masterful you are at communicating. And the first step in mastery here is understanding that it's not logic, it is biology. It's a biological process. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's explore this in a little bit of detail. First of all, language creates reality. The flip side of that is it's also a reflector of reality. Now, what do I mean by that? Language creates reality. The words that we use actually do make a difference. They make a difference because people will assign meaning to them, and that meaning that they assign will end up being the behavior that you see out there. So you're actually creating a reality by using specific words. And if you're not paying attention to what's happening, the reality that you end up creating may not be the reality that you actually intended to create. The other side of that is if you're really paying attention and you're listening, you'll notice that language is also a reflector of reality. It will give you information about the operational context, the frame of reference that people are using to drive their behavior. Now, here's a couple of examples that can kind of illustrate this. There are studies that show that when you take an intact work team, an intact group of people that are working together, and you separate them by no more than about 3 meters, about roughly 9 feet, 10 feet. You don't necessarily have to put a barrier between them, but you just separate them by space. The language patterns change, and it changes in this way because it's a reflector of an experienced reality. It's a biological process. Before the separation, people would refer to members of the group as I, me, and ours, we, our, us, those sorts of language markers. As soon as the separation occurs, actually fairly shortly in time after that separation occurs, language patterns shift and they start referring to the other people in the other groups as they, them, and theirs. Now, what's interesting about that is what happens as a consequence of that shift in linguistics. I, me, mine, we, our, us. If anything happens to a group or a thing that I define as being part of I, me, mine, I will feel proprietary about it. I'll want to defend it. I'll want to protect it. They, them, and theirs, all bets are off. I am, by definition, am not including myself in a they, them, and their scenario. So when something happens to that other part of the group that used to be part of us, I actually don't come to their aid. It's biological. There's a need here to protect that which I think is closest to me. I, me, mine, we, our, us. Language reflects that reality. So one of the things that you can do as a leader is pay particular attention to the kind of language that you are hearing in the organization, because most of the organizations that we work with are relatively large. They certainly have more than one team in operation. They have oftentimes more than one division, more than one department. And if you're using language like we, our, us, that's going to be one thing. If you hear language they, them, marketing, those guys in marketing, you know how they are. You know how salespeople are. Well, you know how administration is. They don't understand what we're doing, what we are doing out here in the field. Those language distinctions create a certain kind of reality that is not going to be what it is that you'd like to have if you're trying to have co-created, coordinated movement.